Good morning, guys. Kind of on the Texas A&M game, I think the end result for us is we just didn't play good enough to win. Really, it's kind of that simple. A lot of it, certainly some of it for sure, had to do with Texas A&M. And then, we just felt like I told the players that the night before, to beat a team like this, you have to make fewer mistakes than they do, and we didn't. So, however, I really liked the way we competed. While watching the tape yesterday and coming home on the bus some, it's just, I thought we competed really well. When you look at our players, I thought we played hard and kept playing with great effort. Certainly thought we handled the crowd, which that wasn't a factor. We had the ball on offense. We only had 4 penalties. We didn't have really any. We had one by a wideout, but none by the linemen, in terms of crowd noise and all that kind of stuff. So I thought we handled all that good. Defensively, we had our moments, just a couple too many mistakes. Offensively, I thought we had some moments. We just made a couple too many mistakes, and then we had the one huge mistake in the kicking game that really cost us a lot of momentum and stuff. We had a chance to cut it to 7, and then actually once we decided to kick, to 11-point game right there before the half. But I thought they did some good things against our defense. When you look at it, they're really, I think when you go back and look at them, they're really good on both lines. And that's what kind of stood out to me and impressed me. And I think anytime you are, it's constant pressure on you. Defensively, you have to do different things unless you think you can just beat them man for man. And offensively, they just keep putting pressure on you with those front guys and stuff, and they're able to drop some guys back and stuff. So anyway, I thought not that they're not good at quarterback and tailback and all that good stuff and DB, linebacker, whatever. I just thought what stood out to me is how good they were on both the lines. They also, I thought, did a good job offensively in a sense that, they kind of spread us a little bit and then ran the quarterback, which evens the numbers up. And somebody's got to beat somebody, basically. And the quarterback's a big guy that can run. So I thought that was a good scheme that they did. So the other thing is, too, that stood out to me that was just really gross. We got killed on third down, which is something that we needed to do. We needed to stay on the field and get off the field, which we didn't. They had the ball 35 minutes to our 25, but we were 2 of 10 on third down, and they were 7 of 11. However, when I broke it down more, our third downs were 7s through 12s, and their third downs were more of the 2 to 5 variety, which, like I said, the third down statistic itself is something that everybody always points to, but what is it? Is it third and what, I guess, is, to me, kind of tells the tale on what kind of success you have on third down. So, like I said, anyway, I like the way we competed. We went out there and played. I don't think we were, I don't think the moment was too big or whatever. I just think they were better than us, and, we made too many mistakes. Really excited about Troy coming in, our first conference game. Really good football team. When you look at them, they're a team that was looking at Southern Miss really a couple weeks ago, built a lot the same. These guys can really run, and it shows defensively, constant pressure. They love the pressure. They love to get guys moving, and they put a lot of pressure on you, play a lot of man-to-man, and they can play it. Offensively, they're tilted a little bit more this year with Barker quarterback to he's more of a run-oriented quarterback than what I've seen Troy in the last several years. Design, call quarterback runs, not read plays. They'll try to spread you out a lot like what we saw last week. So we did get a look at it, but he's a good runner of the football. Right now they're playing 2 quarterbacks, and they're number 3 and number 4 in their rushing stats. The 2 quarterbacks are. So obviously, they're running those guys, and then their special teams I've really been impressed with too. Their guys number 1 right now in punting in the league, and then last year they were 1 and 2 depending on how we and they were last year in the return game. But they had a young man too that I think returned 3 or 4 for touchdowns last year. So, and all the postseason conference stuff or whatever, Marcus was all conference, and their guy was number 2, and it's the same way going in because he's back too. So, and what I like about him too is we're telling like last week we were a little conservative with that, but this guy's going to run out of the end zone. He's catching them 5 yards deep and running them out. So, we certainly got to be ready for that. But we're really excited. I think it's a huge game for us to start conference and to be at home and be against I'm saying this in a good way, obviously, but I've said that kind of the last 2 years. There's kind of three bullies in the league, really, when you look at it, and there's no other way. I think these three teams have been better than everybody else, and that's Troy, Arkansas State, and App State. They've just been better than everybody else. And, so we've got to play Arkansas State. Obviously, we've got to play App State. We were fortunate enough to beat them last year. And, and then here comes Troy, who we haven't played the first 2 years since I've been here. But, I have watched them, and I think Neil's a great coach and got a lot of respect for what they do. And I tell you what, this is going to be a really tough game because they had looked like some early – really just first half hiccups against Boise. They got beat on a couple big balls and turned the ball over a couple times, and but came back and were very impressive against Florida A&M, and then obviously really, really impressive against Nebraska. And Troy jumped out 17-0, so it's not like it was any fluke. They really got after Nebraska, ran the ball, stopped the run, did all the things you have to do to win. So. Anyway, but we're excited. It's obviously a great opportunity for us, and looking forward to being home. So, any questions?
Coach, after the game, in the press conference, I heard you say you were disappointed in some of the things in which your team played on Saturday. What disappointed you the most?
I just think what disappointed me is we just made a couple too many mistakes, I think, is what disappointed me. I think at that time, too, Chris, you're after a game, whatever. I felt like we were maybe a play's being generous, but maybe two plays from I'm really being in it. I'm talking about really, really in it, and that's what you got to do. And the success that some of the teams I've been around, that have had opportunities, you got to get that thing close at the half, and you got to kind of, this is kind of, this can, and then 14 points wasn't obviously out of reach, but I felt like. It could have been probably less than that going into the half. And then I was really disappointed, too, because we actually got a stop on defense to start the third quarter, and then we went 3 and out on offense. So that was disappointing. I felt like if, you get it to a 7-point game, and, I was telling the players that the night before, there's, you have to make less mistakes than them, no question. And I told them, I said, I know some guys that work with me in the past have always frowned, boy, you're such a pessimist. But, I always tell them, hey, man, some bad things are going to happen in this game. And I used the reference of the Nebraska game. I said, everybody points back to it, but we were down 14-0 and 21-7. So, there's going to be things that happen throughout the course of a game. But I remember in that particular game, we were able to get a pick six to make it 21-14 and then went in the half at 7 points and drove down and scored. Now it's tied midway through the third quarter, and it's on. So I felt like we were an opportunity, I think, to get that thing to a 7-point game there, and we had the ball down and stuff. And like I said, so that was what was disappointing. But I'm not disappointed in the effort our kids played on.
What happened on the kick? Was it penetration, low kick?
Well, number one, it was an alignment problem, which we weren't aligned right. That was first thing. And then second thing, they had too much penetration. And that's been something, too, that started with Southeastern. And, we're working it. It's interesting. Of all the, scenarios that are hard, to work in football, that's not something you go out and work every day. Because you take the risk of hurting your own guys. If you just put 3 or 4 guys in there and you just go snap after snap after snap where they just rush as hard as they can and you got bodies falling over bodies, that's just not really something. And it's not something that our PAT field goal block team does. We're more of a traditional edge block team or whatever. So, when Southeastern did it, but look, we done seen it a couple of weeks now, and it's, no excuses. Of course, they did have 3 or 4 pretty big guys in there too that were penetrating that gap, and we just didn't do a good enough job with it.
Well, I guess this is probably going to be from the optimist point of view, but the fact that you all went on the road and played Texas A&M, and you're disappointing, you didn't win the game. That's got to be a sign of growth for this program.
Yeah. We were going. Never win any game, and that's always the goal. But like I said, I felt like we had an opportunity to, after the game. Is getting back to that mindset, whatever. It's 2 days and past it, but getting back to that mindset, I just felt like right before the half, we really had an opportunity to, we had a couple shots at it. If you go back and look at it, and we didn't make the play to make it a 7-point game, and then I definitely didn't want to go for 3. I felt like we get that thing to 7-point game. It was, but okay, we'll settle for 3, and then now it's 21. It's just. Not to our kids' credit, we came right back down and scored. But and then coming out of the second half, we get a big stop. We kick it down there and stop them and get the ball back, and now it's time to get back to pressure on them. We just didn't do it. We went 3 and out, and then, so we were close. Like I said, though, I love the way we competed, but it was disappointing in a sense because the game was kind of playing out the way you want it to play out. We were just a play or two away from, whether you win the game or not, I don't know, but it gets interesting. It gets really, really interesting, if you can kind of get that thing in there, from past experience, and I thought we were pretty close to doing it.
So, looking at Troy, you think it's kind of a misnomer about this team? Because I think people think of Troy and they think a wide open offense and pushing tempo, but these guys kind of old school. They really just want to get down and run the football.
They definitely do, and they've done it the last several years. What was the kid's name? Chun. They had him or whatever, but they were more basically running him. Not that Silvers couldn't run the ball, but they were more running him and RPO type stuff and throwing it down the field. I don't remember them doing anything close to design, call quarterback runs, quarterback power, quarterback counter, quarterback sweep, where they just snap the ball and he takes off running. So that's a little bit different from what they were doing last year and in our scouting, pre-scouting stuff that we did, which obviously, too, so I think Neil's a great coach. Maybe that, I'm sure he thinks that's what his personnel dictates now. And it's not like the kid can't throw it. He can throw it, but, heck, he's a good runner, too, and they kind of plug that in there. And but you're right. I think that's the initial deal, too. And then you go back and look at Neil's background, which we have, the Kentucky, the Texas Tech, the deal. You think of that more than, well, I tell you what, they do. Of course, they're number 1 in the league in stopping a run. But, right now they are after 3 games. And they've played Boise and Nebraska, so it's not like they ain't played people that can run it, but they definitely can. They run the ball and they stop the run. And I've always said that. You've heard me say that. Whatever, you can do that, I think you got a chance in any game.
You alluded to the bullies being App State, Troy, and Arkansas State. And, all 3 good teams, but this is the second year in a row beating LSU last year, Nebraska. They've kind of got a marquee win for the league. Do you think that they are right now maybe the most complete team in all the phases?
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen enough to make that kind of deal. I haven't seen Arkansas State this year, and I watched, App State looked pretty complete against Penn State to me. I watched the second half of that game. Speaking of that too, change quarterbacks, change this, change that, and it looked like the same App State to me. Nothing changed. So, but I'm just saying, like I said, that's just a word I use, but I think have been the 3 clearly best teams. And then if I can remember too, I'm trying to remember, but because I've taped those games and watched the last several years, but Troy's won the last several bowl games too they played in. They've been pretty impressive doing it. And so no, I think, but that's been the 3 when you look at it, teams that have been a little bit better. When I first came here, Georgia Southern you could probably put in that category too, but since I've been here, Georgia Southern looks like they're getting back. They're getting better and getting back in the swing with Tyson. But in the time I've been here, when you just watch personnel and what they're doing, those 3 teams have been a little bit better than everybody else. To me, the league is close and it's competitive and all that, but those 3 have kind of been set apart, at least the last 2 years I've been here.
You didn't hesitate to call this one a big game, right? Like right after the game.
No, I think it's a huge game. It's a big game, and I think also too when you look at it, this is a game that has conference implications and stuff, and it's in our place. It's at Malone Stadium, and you look for those types of games, I think, and we haven't had necessarily. I think Georgia State was one of those last year. We didn't play as well as we needed to play, and but this is certainly one of them early in the year coming in. I told our players that yesterday. I said, look, just like A&M, just like this is not necessarily going to, this, even if we win this game, this is a long season. There's 8 more to go, but this is a big game in a sense that, we got a great opportunity and stuff against a very good opponent, however, but, I don't think anything at this time of the year is do or die, but it is an important game.
Coach, at what point did you find out that Troy upset Nebraska? And as someone who nearly upset Nebraska yourself a couple of years ago, what was your initial reaction when you heard that Troy did that?
Well, I guess I heard that it was final, really, on the bus, going to the deal, and but Nebraska. I wasn't watching the game. It was on the Big Ten Network, and I didn't get that in the hotel. But I was watching the score, and they were up 17-0. And then I was whatever game I was watching, or I say watching, looking at, whatever, not really watching very hard. They showed a highlight or whatever when the kid broke the run, basically to make it an 11-point game with 5 or 6 minutes left. So anyway, but on the bus, which we had about an hour and 50-minute bus ride from where we were to College Station, I saw the score became final. So I sent Neil a text congratulating him because it's a big win for Troy and big win for the league. And then he hit me back pretty much not too long after that. But that's kind of when I found out, though, officially, I guess, was on the bus.
Xavier, what's going on with him? Is he going to be back this week?
We think we probably will. We're just looking at, kind of looking at kind of maybe what the best is for him. But he had elbow surgery, really Tommy John surgery at the end of February, which that's kind of and he's come back and he's got good days and not so good days, depending on what happens. So, we're going to kind of, what we've kind of decided is that for sure he's going to play the 4. We'll look at with the new rule. Talk to Todd Dooley and make sure that I understand the new rule because he didn't redshirt, and then we kind of want to see how it goes after the 4 games. But I think when you look at it, when you look at him, he can run. He was having trouble catching the ball during camp with that elbow because he had that big thing on, but he can actually catch the ball now. What really gives, last year he was one of our better special teams players too. And we've taken him off all that just because, it's hard, and you can see him out on the field trying to block on the perimeter. He's the guy when you throw the bubble screens out to Marcus. He's the one that's supposed to, and that's what's giving him the problems, So anyway, we've kind of looked at that and talked to him, and I just felt like too, and we wanted to give, this last week was a really good opportunity to give some of those other guys in there. Like Zach Jackson caught a big ball in his spot, basically, caught it. So let's try to get some of those other guys in. Let's try to see what it looks like. And then, but we think, we'll talk to X this afternoon, but, my initial thoughts are we're going to play him this week, as one of the 4, and then we'll make a decision. But in my mind, A&M wasn't one of them, if that's going to be the case, then that ain't going to be one of them, but we're back to conference and, so anyway, we'll look at that. Like I said, it's something that I've kind of looked at and kind of monitored, and, it gets his senior year, and I would like, I think he would like to, and I would like to see him, have the opportunity to play his best. And, but if y'all been around X, he don't say 2 words. He'll do whatever we say or whatever we ask him to do, he'll do. He's a tough kid, but you can just see him, in his actions and his reactions and stuff, and that things give him some problems.
Coach, health-wise, playing an SEC school, how did you guys fare?
Came out of it great. Came out of it really good. And, but, really, when you look at it, we had some guys come out of the game. We didn't have anybody that didn't go back in. So that was really encouraging. But, I've said it for years and hate to jinx myself, but I've got more guys hurt at McNeese playing Division II schools than I did, playing, I think that's I never have looked at it in that sense, I think the long bus ride took more toll than the game. You know what I'm saying? So, me. So.
Peterson gets healthier.
Yeah, I think so. We tried to start getting him in a little bit more last week, and his weight's kind of continuing to come up, and so look for him to start getting in more and more.
Offensively, you mentioned some of the issues, third down, sustaining drives, it's becoming kind of a pattern. Is this more this week against the conference opponent? Is this kind of a more fair assessment of where you guys are on that side of the ball?
I think so. Yeah, against one of the better defensive units too. So it's going to be, it'll be a tough. But I agree with that assessment. We sustained a lot of drives against Southeastern, only punted once, but didn't finish them. In my opinion, against Southern Miss and last week, we didn't sustain enough, it's and stuff. So hopefully we can get a little bit more consistent, I think. And, and that's been, like I said, you got to give Texas A&M credit. I keep saying we made mistakes, but they caused a bunch of them. They just made good plays and, and have good players and stuff. But there's still a few here and there that I think we can maximize that we're not, that we need to become a little bit more consistent at. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.